What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets. For today's episode, a very special one. We're breaking down the Frozen Frenzy that'll be taking place tomorrow, October 24th. We got all 32 teams going tomorrow, so you can check that out on ESPN2. They'll be doing a special broadcast, kind of NHL's version of Red Zone, which is interesting too. We were talking about it before, not really sure how it's going to work or kind of what the success is going to be, but we could chat about that a little bit later. Before we start getting into a few key games tomorrow, let's bring in the rest of the crew. Franco, how we doing?
All right, man. All right. Watch my Phillies get shellacked by these D-backs tonight, so that's pleasant. So let's talk some hockey.
Yeah, we'll switch up the topics a little bit here. Betzky, how we doing on Arizona?
You ain't switching up the topics yet. We're going to go for a victory slip right here. It'll be 5 o'clock somewhere when you're watching this tomorrow, hopefully. So,
yeah, if not, I mean, it's all relative, anyways. Have a beer. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. So I was talking with Franco about this before, but Franco, just before we get into things, what are your thoughts on this Frozen Frenzy kind of debut that they're doing specifically of the Red Zone? Like, I'm not exactly sure of how they're going to cover all these games, and then they just start panning to goals that have happened 2 minutes ago, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, it's kind of weird. It works perfectly for football because you have, like, once teams cross the 50-yard line, you can be like, all right, we should start maybe shifting to this game. The other games are on the other side of the 50 or whatever the case is. Hockey, it's like goals just come out of nowhere most of the time. I mean, obviously, if there's a power play, they can shift to that. But, I mean, if there's no power plays in any games, like what I assume what they'll just do is put on what they believe is going to be the most exciting game. I don't know. I mean, is there a way to gauge like momentum? You know, if they have people in the studio being like, oh, well, this team's really, really bustling right now in the offensive zone, maybe they shift. But I mean, that's a lot to put on someone, I guess, to make a decision like that, right? Like if this game's humming right now, like you switch to it and then you miss a goal somewhere else, and I don't know. So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they have. I don't know how they're going to work it.
Yeah, Betzky, any opinions on that?
I'm really excited to see what it looks like. Yeah, like kind of how you mentioned, Franco. How do they shift? Are we going to see a ton of action all the time, or is it going to have to go to games that are kind of going back and forth? I mean, I imagine they have some advanced stats that they're probably going to look for. So maybe games that have a higher amount of high danger chances, they're going to kind of focus on more. The way the games are staggered, so you're not going to have the entire morning grouping of games going into halftime at the same time. So I think what they'll do is a good chunk of the games are starting at 3 my time, 6 in Eastern time. Then I think 6:30, then 4. So the way they've staggered it, I think there'll be a lot of games in period break at different times. So they will be able to have just like a select few to choose from too. So it's exciting. I think it's cool that ESPN's putting in the time, money, and effort to do something like this. I hope it's successful, and I hope it gets more hockey fans and gets more people talking about it. Because if it's a complete and utter failure, it's going to be more egg on the face of trying to get more excitement around the sport that kind of has like a very slow growth rate, you know?
Yeah, and the scheduling, obviously, issues have kind of been a topic of conversation the past few years of one game and then 8, 9, and then back to 2, which it's ridiculous, but we'll save that for another time of going over all the NHL's wrongdoings.
For capping purposes, it's brutal.
I mean, it's awful.
I know I'll be up late tonight working and just trying to get things ready because, especially being in the West, you know, I'm behind all you guys once the day gets going. And I mean, it's just catch up mode at that point and trying to whittle things down that look really good and trying to like make your piles of picks you like more than others. It's so difficult. And think your favorite capper tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, how easy is it to list out like 40 plays tomorrow? Like you could easily have like 2 or 3 plays in every game, you know, if you really wanted to. There's enough going on. It's really so difficult to make it not just a ridiculous amount of plays that you're going to post. So I agree with you there.
And the funny thing is, if they're trying to like make it more like the NFL, where people have the opportunity to watch all the games at once with the new frozen puck, whatever it's called, they are going to have to do it on like Tuesdays.
Yeah,
because but they're going to have to do it on like the off days for sports. So it's going to be like, oh, cool, Tuesday night I get to watch every single hockey game. Like,
yeah,
it's not prime time. It's not. They can't do it on Friday because college football. They can't do it on Sunday because of NFL. Saturday, same situation. Like
Tuesday and Wednesday.
You're going to be Tuesday, Thursday. Well, Wednesday they decided to make that rivalry night, so we can always focus on the Islanders playing the Ducks and trying to find some storyline.
Thursday night football has been pretty terrible this year too. So like,
true, yeah. Well, honestly though, you can't really compete with it still. But
I know.
So it's Tuesdays. Tuesday is officially the hockey day of the week, I guess.
Yeah.
Until basketball starts.
Yeah, exactly.
Next week.
You gotta try
tomorrow.
Something.
You
gotta claim a day. You gotta do something like that. So maybe it'll work.
And I hope it does. I hope it's awesome. I hope they have a good way to shift to exciting games. Power play is a perfect opportunity to shift, but I'm looking forward to at least checking that out.
Yeah, for sure. Jumping into the first game here, we got Toronto traveling to Washington here. Toronto minus 170 on the money line. This line has already started to shift. Just an hour ago, they're minus 162. Washington plus 142 on the money line here. Over under at 6. Minus 120 to the over here. Even money on the under. Interesting matchup here, obviously. So the few kind of key points I highlight in this matchup. Toronto obviously ranks first in shots on goal per game. Washington 24th in shots on goal against per game. So I think that's going to be a popular target tomorrow in terms of shot matchups. You're obviously going to look at Matthews, Tavares, Nylander. Those are kind of the top 3 guys on Toronto as of now. Also, this has been kind of my favorite play of the year, is just fading Washington in pretty much every matchup here. Toronto in regulation, minus 105. Grabbed it earlier. I think it's up to minus 110 now. Probably my favorite play in terms of the early slate, I guess, relatively before 7:30. But that's kind of the angle I'm approaching this game with. I'll throw it to you here, Franco. Any kind of angles you're looking at in this one?
I'm going to kind of echo what you said there on the Toronto side. I just don't see it with Washington, at least to start the year. Maybe the Vets get their skating legs going, but they just don't look very good to start the year. And I'm fine with taking that Toronto either in reg, or even if you want to get saucy, take that puck line and get a little bit more plus money there. I feel like Toronto kind of has been up and down a little bit from what we want to see from them. I know they kind of struggled for the first 2 periods in that last game, and then finally kind of came to life in the third. So, I mean, I think if I'm them, I'm licking my chops seeing this matchup, and I could see a big game from them. Tavares' assist looks really nice in this matchup as well. 2 to start the year. In his last 3 years against them, 5 games played, 7 total assists against them. I assume that should be pretty close to even money. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get point props for most of these guys in general. You know how Matthews, Marner, Tavares are usually, well, Matthews and Marner are 1.5 usually, but Tavares is usually like minus 160 to minus 180. So I like to pivot to an assist there for him. Should be pretty close to even money.
Yeah, Betzky, how about you? Any plays in this first game of 16?
Yeah. I'll definitely be leaning on the Toronto shot side of things. It was nice seeing Ovi kind of bouncing back a little bit on the shot side of things as well. I don't know if I'm ready to trust him against a team like Toronto yet. I really like that look, Franco. Yeah, I mean, if he can get even money on a superstar point, in a way, I take that when I can. But I am a little reluctant on Toronto coming off a big comeback win against Tampa. I know they dropped 2 right before that. I'm not saying I'm pretty sure they can win and rag too. Maybe even that puck line, but this may be a thing where they go up 3-1 real early and then turns into 4-1, and that's that. And then there's 28 shots on goal. So I'll probably be looking for some of the main Toronto guys as more of like parlay pieces than anything. The other one that's been doing really well is Carlson shots on goal from the Washington side of things. So depending on kind of the value you can get there, again, Toronto's pretty good against stopping pucks. You may want to lean into that. I'm sure with 16 games, you can probably find some tastier props though.
Yeah, I would agree. Carlson obviously leads the team in shots on goal at 2.8 along with TJ Oshie there, but I think that's probably the only prop you're really going to look at in terms of Washington for the first game. Don't really need to force any plays today or tomorrow per se, which is the nice thing. Moving along here, Buffalo at Ottawa. Buffalo obviously playing right now versus Montreal in this matchup. Ottawa minus 155 on the money line. Buffalo plus 130. Over under at 7. Just one of many games tomorrow with the high total here. Interesting kind of goaltender situation for Buffalo here. Levi's hurt right now. And it looks like UPL is going to get his first start of the season, who has been horrendous. Ottawa obviously going to go with Korpisalo. Korpisalo, again, hasn't been great either. 4.02 goals against average, below 900 save percentage here in this matchup. Ottawa, 9th shots on goal per game. Buffalo, 9th in shots on goal against per game here. I think you're going to look at your Tkachuks, your Stutzlas, kind of those two in this matchup for sure against Buffalo coming off that game last night. And I also like Ottawa in this matchup. I just don't see Buffalo rebounding especially well. Their offense hasn't been clicking to start the season, which they're going to need to rely on to kind of compete with this team. And they're not going to get any real help on goaltending in the back end here. So if you're going to look at kind of a side in this one, I like Ottawa a lot. But I'll throw it to your Betzky. Any plays in Buffalo, Ottawa?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. I'll be definitely looking on Ottawa shots, especially after they got kind of beat down in front of their home crowd against Detroit, who are really kind of starting to feel like becoming one of their rivals now. You got two up-and-coming teams kind of pulling out of a rebuild around the same time. I think that was a big spotlight game to see, okay, who's on top right now. And Detroit, I mean, really kind of flexed on them. So I think Ottawa's going to kind of come back and, here's the third team in the same division that's kind of in that pulling out of the rebuild area. So this is kind of their chance to leave their mark. One thing that I've been loving lately and been riding is shots again. It's always a little dangerous with Chychrun, and now Sanderson starting to shoot, but he's been really consistent. He's usually around 1.5, so you can either alt him to 3 on FanDuel or use that as a really nice parlay piece. Josh Norris has came out flying too. So he hit his shots on goal 2 games in a row. He had 2 goals his first game back. I think, Franco, you and I were all about him last season when he came back and he immediately got injured again. So it's kind of, I was really reluctant to ride him in these first 2 games, or especially his first game back. And he knocked the door down, and I got some plus money value on his shots on Saturday morning. And I'm expecting that to probably only still be around, minus 120-ish, if not better, as far as odds go.
Yeah, Franco, any looks for you in this matchup? You're muted.
Sorry about that. So I agree with you there, though, on Norris. I mean, he was a guy I really wanted to bet on last year and kind of let me down with the injury. And I was really tentative to start the year with him, but he looks great. So I agree. If you can get him at a good price at 2.5, I'll be on that for sure. It seems like Stutzla and Tkachuk are kind of like yo-yoing back and forth as far as like who's the dominant shooter from game to game. So Stutzla had 6, Tkachuk had 1 the last game. I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a big Brady game, this game here. So probably look there for his shots as well. The one thing you could do if you – obviously you can't bet Ottawa money line. I guess you could go them in reg. But if you want to go with a team total instead, DraftKings does, I think FanDuel does as well, where you can exclude overtime. Their team total over 3.5 is minus 125. So just another way to kind of target them without having to ride the money line or do a puck line or something like that. I think they can get 4 goals against UPL.
Yeah, I would agree in that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, especially after the spanking.
Yeah. Next game up on the slate here, Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay plus 105 on the money line. Carolina minus 125. Expected goaltenders to be Anderson and Johansson. Interesting matchup. Carolina starts the season off 3-3. Tampa Bay 2-2-2. Obviously, kind of given the Vasilevsky news, we expected Tampa Bay to struggle to start the season, but I don't think anyone saw Carolina starting the season 3-3. Injury issues as well on their end, but probably one of the better games, I guess, expected. If we were to say two weeks out of the season before everything happened, this was definitely one that you had circled on the calendar in terms of matchups here. Carolina 8th in shots on goal per game. Tampa Bay 31st, giving up the second most shots here. Certainly a lot of guys you're going to look to target on Tampa Bay's end or Carolina's end here. Also, Tampa Bay's power play has been phenomenal for them too. Yeah. Kind of the main area that they're generating offense. Stamkos, Point, Paul, Kucherov, all averaging a power play point per game. Carolina 28th on the PK. So a little angle there if you're looking for Tampa Bay to kind of continue their aspect of generating offense through the man advantage. Besides that, don't really have any other plays in this one here. Betzky, I'll throw it to you first. Any plays in Carolina, Tampa Bay?
You got my mouth foaming now for the power play points for the Tampa Bay side. I didn't realize Carolina with Aho out too, especially. I mean, how do you not jump on a point power play point or Kucherov power play point at this point? Wow, I said point so many times right there. The other piece I really like here, I couldn't believe I saw it on Saturday night, was Burns' point was plus money. And if that's still rolling even around even money or even in the minus 120 area, I'm going to take that any day. So I slammed that against Colorado. He got a goal, I believe. Maybe I even had a multi-point game. Tampa's the goaltending issues that we kind of talked about at the very start of the season are definitely a thing. I mean, I think Johansson, you can't really say he's been outperforming what you expected because he has a very, very good team in front of him. So he's about doing. I thought the 3-1 game against Toronto, he was starting to look a lot better, and then of course the wheels just kind of fall off. So this is a nice game that probably looking the over for at this point, and maybe some interesting point props and power play props for sure.
Yeah, Franco, any looks from you in this game?
Yeah, on the surface, for sure, the over. Just with the way both these teams have been playing. I mean, Carolina has been sailing over. It's not even like 4-2 games or 4-3 games. We're looking like 6-4, 7-4, 6-3. So, I mean, they've been just, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
The over is hitting each of their first 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the time to hop off it. I don't know. I mean, the trends, like, historically, this series is kind of leaning more towards the under, I guess, overall, like the last 10 or whatever you want to say. So maybe tread a little lightly there. But, yeah, I agree with Betzky on Burns' point. I think I saw him even in that San Jose game. He was like minus 125, which is just ridiculous. I don't really know. Maybe they're expecting a little bit of regression because he's kind of like splitting the power play with D'Angelo, and I don't know. I don't really know what the deal is with that price because it really, I don't remember it ever being really bettable last year. So
yeah.
Otherwise, if Jarvis point is bettable, I'd like to look there. He's been really, really hot recently. 6 points in 3 games. I know there's a couple other guys that have been hot as well, but seems like Teravainen's kind of cooled off after his hot start. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it really just depends on where the value is. That's really going to determine where I go. I know a guy like Natchez probably isn't going to be bettable. Stefan Nazen looks pretty good as well. So again, it'll depend on pricing, and I will definitely be looking at those power play points for Tampa as well. I love that angle.
Next game up here, we got New Jersey at Montreal. Montreal coming off a game tonight. New Jersey minus 230 on the money line. Over under set at 6.5 here. Montreal plus 190 on the money line. Interesting game here too. New Jersey, obviously the first 4 games went over the total. They're 2-1-1. Montreal 2-1-1 as well. New Jersey 8th in goals for per game. Montreal giving up the ranked 21st in goals against per game here. I have the over circled in this matchup along with New Jersey in regulation here. I'm not sure how exactly if Montreal, this game kind of stays the same pace. It's just a boat race, it looks now. Obviously, the goaltending's holding up, but I think New Jersey comes out and smokes them. We saw how they rebounded after they got bag skated in their last game. So I think they continue to roll here and start to really pick up steam heading into kind of the later first month of the season. So that's kind of what I'm targeting in this game. Franco, any looks in New Jersey, Montreal?
I think the first thing you have to consider when you're looking at Jersey, pretty much going forward, is just Jack Hughes over 1.5 points. I keep looking at it. I keep not betting it, and it keeps hitting. So I don't really know what else to say. I mean, the guy's been an absolute stud to start the year. Another guy that's been really cheaply priced, I don't know if it's going to stay there, but is Dougie Hamilton. It's kind of the same as the Brent Burns effect. For a point, he's been bettable just about every game. And again, I haven't bet it, but he's been so heavily involved. 2 goals, 2 assists through 3 games. I mean, come on, you got to ride him at this point. So the other angle I'll look at for sure is Cole Caulfield over 2.5 shots. If they're going to give it to me, I doubt you're going to have it bettable. It'll probably be a parlay piece, but he's been much better at home historically. I don't know how he's doing yet tonight. I haven't really looked at the game, but yeah, I know tonight they're on the road, so maybe it's kind of weird because back to back, I don't know how well Montreal is going to be skating, but something to think about as well.
Betzky, any plays from you here?
Nothing that hasn't really already been said. Caulfield's fantastic at home. Going to kind of have to see how the rest of this game goes tonight. It seems like it's been a little bit of a slow start, so maybe they're saving some energy for tomorrow. The Hamilton thing, I just kind of want to make a note. Him and Brent Burns are kind of defensemen where point is a lot safer than assist. There's a lot of defensemen, like Morrissey, even Dahlin. Yes, they score goals. Obviously, it's always going to be a risk to not do the point over the assist, but those 2 especially are ones that I kind of avoid the assist on. So I really like that Jack Hughes over 1.5 point. Suzuki's been shooting a ton too. So I'm going to kind of monitor, see how he does tonight. That may be one to dabble in. Just kind of depending on how Montreal performs tonight. Matheson's off to a hot start again. So he's a nice one for shots on goal on the Canadiens, for another defenseman that just seems to like to rip the puck. So you usually can get him around even money and into the plus area. Jersey's a little bit tougher on shots, but they've been a little bit sloppier to begin the season. So that may be a nice piece to look at too.
Yeah, I like that look as well. Next game up, Dallas at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh minus 105 on the money line. Dallas minus 115 over under at 6.5. Juice to the under in this one. Dallas starts the year off 3-0-1 here. Pittsburgh starts it off 2-3. Slow start for Pittsburgh. I mean, like we mentioned on our preseason show, if they can just get into the playoffs, they suddenly turn into a very dangerous team here. Interesting enough, too. So Pittsburgh's shooting the puck a ton. Obviously, they're ranked 5th in shots on goal per game. Dallas giving up a ton, ranks 22nd. I think you're going to kind of look at a few shot props here. Obviously, Malkin, Russ, Carlson, Raquel. Interesting enough, too, with this total set at 6.5. Last 5 games have all gone under between these 2 teams here. Dallas starts the season off 1-3 to the under. Pittsburgh 2-3 to the under. So seems like a low-scoring matchup here. But I'll start with you here, Franco. Are you kind of buying that, or are you looking at another side in total in this matchup?
Yeah, I lean the under for sure. That history is just, that was one of the first things that stuck out to me when I went to look at the historic matchup between these two. Now, a lot of it goes back, 2021, 2019 and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can't really take a lot of that for what this team is, what either of these teams are now, I guess. But yeah, even if you look at the 2022 games or 2023 games, you have 3-2, 2-1, 2-3. So tight games. I lean Dallas though. They feel like they're just better team right now. So I'll probably lean more towards that than look at an under. I always am just really hesitant with unders, especially with the way stuff's been going so far to start the year in the NHL. So the other one is Rupe Hintz goal. He's got 2 to start the year in his 3 games he's played, and 3 in 4 games against them in the last few years as well. So really like that angle. Should be a pretty nice plus price there.
Yeah, Betzky, any looks for you in this matchup?
Well, one that I'm avoiding is going to be Jason Robertson. I mean, he has not been able to get that motor going yet. I'm very excited for this player to start turning around. This was a very reliable shots on goal player, and even kind of in that 1.5 point type player, especially at home games, goal scorer. All those props right now are just kind of totally frozen over. Another one that I've been really eyeing and have been using somewhat frequently is a Sagan point. He's found a lot of chemistry with Duchesne. He's kind of becoming more of a shooter again. I unfortunately missed his shots on goal against Vegas, even though he had great history versus them. But he's somebody that I am leaning on as either another little sprinkle for a parlay to get some extra value out of it, or even as a straight, depending on the kind of value you can get here. That under is really interesting. I had no idea the history was quite like that. So that does give me a little bit more pause, but I'll have to kind of crack into this one a little bit more. Another guy who's been starting to pick up his shot volume, and I think he's hit 2 games in a row, is Raquel. He has not scored yet. I believe he finally picked up his first point against St. Louis. I'm not 100% sure offhand. But his shot volume has rapidly increased. You can tell he wants to get the monkey off his back. So that may be one I go right back to, even though Dallas can be a little bit stingy against shots on goal. Pittsburgh just, they can absolutely unload. And then, of course, Rust at home has been fantastic. So,
yeah, I like how that looks too. Interestingly enough, if you're looking to target the under, DraftKings has the under 6.5 at -120. FanDuel already has it up to -140. So be sure to shop around and find out those best lines. Moving along here, Colorado at New York Islanders here. Colorado starts the season off undefeated. New York 2-1-1. 2-0-1 at home. New York slight home dogs here, +120. Colorado -142 on the money line. One of the lower totals we're seeing today at 6. I'll start with you here, Betzky. Kind of an interesting matchup between these two teams. Do you think Colorado stays hot, or are you looking to target this game in another matter?
Colorado's been interesting. They've been really hard to predict. I mean, one day you get a McKinnon 14 shot performance. The next, both him and Rantanen don't hit. They've really evolved as a team the past 2 years. And I thought a lot of what we saw last season was mostly because of all the injuries and the lack of depth. But they're really kind of becoming this more complete, very tough team to play against. They still shoot the puck quite a bit. They still can score. But it's not kind of the total high octane offense that we were kind of used to from a couple seasons ago. Jersey's kind of taken the crown for that. So McCarr shots have been out of control all season. I mean, it's kind of hard not to want to use him. It's definitely more of a parlay piece. He doesn't really go beyond 3 all that often, but he doesn't go much lower either. So definitely a nice guy to add to any slips. All that said, Sorokin saves could be nice too, depending on where that line begins. I would definitely lean the under on this game too, though, just the way these two teams are playing. I feel like we talk about goalies a lot on this show. We had a lot of goalies who were kind of the backup guys from previous teams who started getting starting roles, or even the expected backup who kind of took over as a starter last year. Georgiev is one of the ones that seems like he's becoming the truth. He's becoming pretty damn reliable now. So,
yeah, Franco, any looks for you in this game?
Never thought I'd hear those words. Georgiev is becoming the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell's going on? Yeah, I mean, both of them have. I mean, we expected from Sorokin, right? He's almost at five goals saved above expected, right? And Georgiev is almost at 3. So, I mean, what the hell's going on here? I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think in general with Islanders games, you kind of can't be betting overs. It's just probably not good for your health. So
that's not good for your health to watch them either.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like I just, at least to start the year and in general, I feel like I never want to be like watching Islanders games. So I don't really want to be betting them either. So, and that's kind of just, I don't know. That's just like a general feeling I have towards this team. I think they're good for what they do. They just shut down teams and they play their style and it works. And it's just not very fun for a betting, standpoint for most of us. So usually I just lay off and kind of just go somewhere else. But if I had to, I would do like a Makar assist or something like that. He's been hot. In general, I mean, this Colorado offense has just been really great. So, and it's been spread out. It hasn't, like Betzky said, it hasn't been like one guy. I know McKinnon has had his games and stuff like that, but it's really been kind of everybody. And I mean, they almost look like they're kind of have a little bit of a resurgence as far as like putting their name in the hat again as a cup contender. Whereas kind of going into the season, I felt like they weren't there, at least for the roster moves and stuff like that they did over the off season. So I'll probably just lay off, maybe look at shots, like you said, for Sorokin, saves for Sorokin, but they've been kind of spotty as well. Goalie save props to start the year. So probably just lay off.
Yeah, so Colorado ranks second in shots on goal, 4 per game. New York Islanders are giving up the 20th most. Colorado's power play has also been great too, ranking 8th. New York Islanders PK ranks 26th. Lehkonen is averaging a power play point per game. Rantanen's already got 3. McKinnon's got 2. So another kind of look there as well, similar to Carolina, Tampa Bay in terms of power play points. And then again, just McKinnon, 6.2 shots a goal per game, 11.2 attempts. Lehkonen, 4.4 shots on goal per game, 5.6 attempts. Rantanen, 3.8, and then 5.8 attempts. So I think those are all 3 looks that I'm going to kind of look to target per se, especially for power play points as well tomorrow. And interestingly enough, the last 3 of 4 matchups between these teams have gone over. And the total is only at 6 right now. So while it may seem like an under game, historically it's gone over in both in this matchups between these two. So just a few ideas there. Next game up, Edmonton at Minnesota. Edmonton even money. Minnesota favored in this matchup, -120, over under at 6.5 here. Minnesota's offense has been clicking to start the season, ranking 9th in goals for per game. And Edmonton gives up the 28th most goals against per game in this matchup here. Interestingly enough, Minnesota's defense has also been brutal, ranking 30th in goals against per game here. McDavid obviously out for the next few weeks, so the Draisaitl show has begun. Interestingly enough, he has a point in 4 of his last 5 versus Minnesota and a goal in 3 of his last 4 against Minnesota. So it could be the start of a new Nashville Predators trend, but I don't know if we're going to get there yet. But I'll throw it to you here, Franco. Any looks in this game?
Well, I think this is one of the things we talked about in our previous show was what is this team going to look like if they lose one of their stars, right? We know it's the McDavid and Draisaitl show. And right away, when you look at these lines, it just goes down very quickly here. So, I mean, I love Draisaitl. I still think that top line looks pretty good, but now you got Foegele, Nugent Hopkins, and Janmark as your second line. I mean, that's pretty bad. So the McDavid factor is real, man. I mean, like this game, if this game was played before his injury, or with a healthy McDavid, I would assume that the Oilers are probably minus 120 favorites here. So, I don't think I can back Edmonton even with the plus money. So, probably look towards the Wild here. As far as props go, you have to look Kaprizov shots at home. I know it's like an auto bet at this point. There hasn't been a ton of value on it to start the year either. I think he's been like minus 140, and he hasn't necessarily been as consistent as we like to see out of him. So we'll see. I mean, that can change. It's still early. The other guy I'm really looking at, though, is Eriksson Ek. He's been great to start the year. His shots he's been hitting them as well. And historically against them, he's done really well. So I would assume that he's going to get some pretty good matchups as far as what he's going to get on the offensive end. And he's been productive offensively too. He's got 3 goals and 2 assists in 3 games to start the year. So, and against them historically, 4 goals, 2 assists in 6 games in the last 3 years. So I don't know. I think there's a ton of value on Eriksson Ek to start the year. I know Kaprizov props are always going to be super juiced, so it might be a good pivot to go to him instead.
Yeah, I like that look, especially with the Eriksson Ek look. 3.2 shots on goal per game, 5.6 shot attempts. So certainly the volume is there. Betzky, any looks for you in this matchup?
Yeah, I really like that Eriksson Ek look. He just always shows up at home too, on top of everything that you've pointed out. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is probably going to have to become the second guy on this team now, right? I probably am going to start fading Bouchard points a little bit. That was a nice little ride while we still had McDavid. I'll definitely keep my eye on it. It's going to be probably smart to lay off of Edmonton right now. Just let it settle, see how this team looks without McDavid, see who starts to get relied on a little bit more heavily. I could see Evander Kane becoming a much better option for shots on goal moving forward. A piece that I love is Zuccarello, and I may lean right into that power play point. He just had 2 goals, so assist would be another area to look into. When you have a guy like Kaprizov, who's more of a shooter, more of a goal scorer, and then he kind of takes the night off doing that, and the other guy who's more of the playmaker on his line goes off, you kind of tend to see the reverse thing happen pretty soon or pretty quickly after. So Zuccarello is a guy I have highlighted. I need to look at that historical context against Edmonton, but this early into the season, I'm trying not to lean too heavily into that outside of things like the Draisaitl Nashville looks.
Yeah, Kane obviously was upset about his ice time, so it'll be interesting to see kind of a new role, if they give him an increased role per se with McDavid out, and kind of how they slot him into the lineup. So
how long is McDavid out for? Have we gotten any sort of confirmation? Is it just week to week right now?
1 to 2 weeks was the last I saw.
No surgery for sure, or is reevaluation happening?
I didn't see anything about surgery. All I saw from Daily Faceoff was 1 to 2.
Okay.
But I mean, we were talking about it too before the season started. Imagine if you took that over at 136.5 for points and he's out 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks is a long time for NHL. It's crazy.
Yeah. Next matchup on the slate, the New York Rangers travel to the Calgary Flames. Calgary is a home dog in this matchup, plus 105. New York favored on the road, minus 125. Over under set at 6, juiced to the over in this one. Expected goaltenders, Shesterkin and Markstrom. Calgary coming off 2 losses, outscored 9-3 during that stretch here. New York Rangers rank first in shots on goal against per game. So Calgary shots target may not be the look in this one. Certainly should be a tight game here. But I'll throw it to you here, Betzky. Any thoughts on this one?
It's hard to avoid Panarin right now. Holy cow, that man has been on a mission ever since he shaved his head. His shots on goal, I think, has hit literally in every game so far this season.
I believe so, yeah.
Yep.
I do too. Obviously, that wagon's wheels have to fall off at some point, but I don't know when you want to bet against it. So you've been able to get really good value on it. Obviously, the books are cautious too, because considering he's more of a playmaker as well. Leaning into him for points or shots, as if you have to use it as parlay pieces, that's definitely one to circle. If you can get some good enough value, it's pretty hard not to want to take the shot component for a straight. I found a cool, interesting tweet earlier this morning from moneypuck.com. And they had the top lines this season by expected goals percentage. So minimum of 30 minutes played together, 5-on-5. The top line for Calgary, the Mangiapane, Lindholm, Huberdeau line is ranked 10th. So for expected goal percentage. So this is probably a very undervalued line for points. You could probably take any of them and get close to plus money. Maybe not so much Lindholm, but if you want to do Huberdeau or an assist, you're probably going to get plus money as he's not as much of a goal scorer. Lindholm seems to be getting a little bit hotter if you want to even kind of dabble or sprinkle on him to score a goal. But this is definitely a line you may want to lean into. They're getting a lot of great advanced stats. They're being really productive on a team that is kind of hard to read.
Yeah, interesting enough, I saw you tweet that out earlier, and I was looking at there's two lines in front of that belong to the Rangers as well, which I guess at the start of the season I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, interestingly enough, Franco, any plays in this one?
Well, Betzky, I'm going to throw a little bit of water on your fire.
Oof.
On the game this weekend, they decided that line wasn't good enough, so it was broken up. Lindholm played Ruzicka and Coronado, and I'm pretty sure that's why Lindholm did not hit his shots on goal and had 0 shots on goal that game. So, they split him up completely.
Wow.
Kadri, Dubé, Lindholm, Ruzicka, Coronado, and then Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane. So, yeah, as far as getting any kind of production out of that line, I don't know. I mean, maybe they shift back to it, but yeah, I don't know. I think this team in general is still kind of trying to feel its way through this early season with the new coach and stuff like that. So maybe he puts it back together, but I mean, something must not have been going right for them to completely change everything. And obviously it didn't help because they got crushed in Detroit. So, yeah, I mean, besides that, I like the Panarin shots. I think by game time, that thing moved to like minus 150. I know it opened around minus 125. So I don't know how good of a value you're going to get there. I know Calgary typically is kind of towards the middle of the pack there with shots allowed. But yeah, I mean, I don't love too much here. Probably what I would look at, honestly, and I don't really love doing these towards in season because I just feel like there's not as much of a need to do it, but block shots, if you're so inclined, would probably be a good look on the Rangers side on one of their defensemen. With the knowledge that we have, that Calgary fires the puck a ton, and they're coming off a couple bad losses as well. So yeah, the Rangers don't give up a ton of shots, but I think that is a lot to do with the fact that guys are blocking a ton of shots. So I know Trouba's been awesome to start the year for that prop. I think his 2.5 is cashed every game so far. But like I said, I tend to tread lightly with block shots in season because you never know when a guy's going to just take a night off. It's not playoffs. So
yeah, that's fair. Next game up, we head to Los Angeles. We got the Arizona Coyotes at the LA Kings. LA Kings heavy favorites in this one, minus 205. Arizona plus 170, over under set at 6.5 here. Arizona has won back-to-back games. They enter this matchup with a little bit of momentum here. LA coming off a loss against Boston where they dropped 4-2. Betzky, I'll throw it to you here. What are we supposed to expect from these red-hot Coyotes in this one?
Well, they just lost Jason Zucker for a couple of weeks, so I think that is going to kind of maybe slow the engine down a little bit. I was kind of hoping they would pull up Dylan Guenther, but instead they pulled up Jan Yannick for probably replacing the Zucker role. So it's going to be really interesting to see what these lines look like going into tomorrow. Now, that being said, you know my thoughts on LA Kings goaltending. This could be definitely more of a race. I know that Anaheim game was 1-2, but that game really could have gone out of hand as well. That Coyotes had a ton of chances that Gibson doesn't make a couple big saves, and that game was going to be easy 4-1, I think. So I do think the Arizona firepower is there still, even if you lose a little bit of some of that momentum with Zucker being out. Kempe is really starting to heat up. I'm really hoping his line's around 3.5. That would be something I'm going to look at against Coyotes because they are still allowing a good amount of shots. They are still taking a lot of penalties. So goaltending has been very good for Arizona, though, on the other side of that. So outside of, I think the Jersey game, they've only allowed 3+ goals once. Still, I think LA is a kind of different animal, and I think this is going to be quite a bit. Fiala shots on goal. He just missed, I know, but I'm ready to bounce right back on that, especially against a team like Arizona. He's missed 2 games in a row. He hit about 70% of the time at home last season. He just missed against Boston. You really think he's going to not get 3 against Coyotes? I don't know. That feels like a lot of good value there. PLD has been heating up quite a bit too, so that may be another piece to kind of look for, maybe as a goal or a point piece.
Yeah, I like that for sure. Ingram has been confirmed in that matchup too.
Interesting. So, okay. One last piece on the Arizona side is Barrett Hayton shots. That kid is starting to play kind of that net front presence on that top line with Keller and Schmaltz, who are both playmakers, even if Keller's been kind of ripping puck more. Heaton still gets his, and it's always been hovering around like plus 125-ish or so.
Yeah. Franco, how about you?
Yeah, on the Arizona side, I think we saw a little shift in the Michelli game the last few, man. He's looked back to what we expect from him.
Yeah.
Making great I mean, that one pass I saw was crazy. So yeah, I mean, I like his point or his assist, whatever's bettable. If points, I think points should still be probably pretty bettable, but I honestly don't mind just going to assist and just taking that value instead. We know what he brings to the table. He's going to be the passer, the creator on that team. So, and it seemed like I don't know if you noticed this, Betzky, but it seemed like they were starting with the second power play unit more often than the first power play unit. That last game. I don't know what that was about, but just something to think about as well, because I think Michelli had an assist in that game on the power play. Maybe it was the previous game, but I know he had a power play assist at least in one of the games. So
I definitely noticed that too, and it's been in the both units get pretty almost even treatment. Obviously, the top unit gets a little bit more, but I've been seeing that second unit go out at the beginning of a power play quite often. Now Zucker's off of it though, so
yeah, that might change it. Yeah, that's kind of a big loss. So maybe I don't know. We'll see. I mean, yeah, and that was the line they played the last game with Zucker, Michelli, and Cooley. So may have to look at the lines there. So maybe hold off on that, see how the lines shift. But still, I think if you're getting good value there, I think he's starting to feel himself and get into a groove. So
for sure. And there's a chance they move him up to the top power play unit now that Zucker's out, and maybe move Cooley back down to the second one. So
yeah, I could see that, especially with how he's been playing. I think he's just been playing really well. So the other one is you mentioned PLD, but you said his point. I like his shots. He has kind of looked really reinvigorated the last couple games. I mean, I've never been the biggest fan of his game because he's a guy that kind of like takes games off or takes plays off. At least whenever I've watched him, he just kind of like loafs almost. But these last few games, he has been, I don't know, he's been on fire. Absolutely. Especially that Minnesota game. I think he scored like goals like back to back within a matter of minutes. And he's hit his shot props three games in a row, and against two, I mean, relatively stingy teams in Minnesota and Boston are the last two. I know Boston is. So yeah, I mean, I think you can look any number of ways really for King's shots against Arizona, because I mean it's just always a good look there, and I think the over is the play as well, just in general.
Yes,
so.
yeah.
Last game that we'll be covering, and last game of the night. Philly travels to Vegas. Vegas still undefeated, 6-0 to start the season here. They're heavy favorites, minus 238 on the money line. Philly plus 195, over under set at 6. Franco, I'll start with you here. What are you looking for in this matchup between your Philadelphia Flyers and the Vegas Golden Knights?
Do the Flyers stay hot and knock the Kings off in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, Vegas has looked really good, and I don't know. This Flyers team is feisty though, so I mean, there's no value in taking Vegas. Obviously, I'm kind of looking at that puck line on Philly at plus 1.5, but I don't know. I want to know who the goalies are. If Hart's starting, I can see this game being tight. The Flyers have just looked good to start the year, and I know it's weird to say and all that, and we've kind of talked about this. That I said that I thought they would start the year out well, so I'm happy with that. But I don't know, they're feisty to start the year for sure. So I don't know. There's a ton of value, obviously, in the Vegas side. I mean, Carlson's been red hot. I like that look if you're looking for a point prop. Theodore as well has been awesome, 4 assists in 3 games. So, yeah, I don't know. I probably best play would probably be the under if I had to. If you made me take something here, but probably gonna just watch it and enjoy it.
Yeah, Betzky, how about you? Any looks in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of avoiding the Flyers games personally, but the under is probably where I'd lean on that. Sean Couturier has been awesome for them. He's really kind of came right back to form, and it's reminding people why he's the top center in this league. So maybe see if you can get some point props there. His shots have been a little bit up and down. Eichel seems to be cooling off a little bit with those shots, but you never know if he's going to bounce back. So that's not an area I'd probably lean into too, even though Philly's been very disciplined and being a true torch team right now. So it's tricky right now. Konechny's been awesome as well, but I don't know if I trust that against Vegas. So this is probably one of those ones that see how your bankroll's doing by that last game of the 16-game slate, and maybe go with what our resident Philly expert says, or maybe dabble a little bit in Eichel, or probably my leans there, or the under.
Yeah, Eichel does love playing Philly. I mean,
does he? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, four shots on goal game average, 5 assists in 6 games. So maybe that's the angle. You go with his shots, or maybe his assist prop or something like that.
He's like kind of redheadish, so maybe it's kind of a wishing he's on the team.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Any other looks that you guys had in games we didn't cover? I know, Franco, you mentioned one, but I wanted to give Betzky the opportunity as well if he had any other plays you wanted to give out before we sign off.
No, this is going to be a marathon here tomorrow. So definitely be patient. Don't just tail everything you see. Make sure you do proper bankroll management. If you hit a bunch early, you can make that smart decision and not keep on betting. Or if you want to keep on having fun, just make sure you're not go overextending yourself when you're not coming out on top. So this is going to be a day of discipline and making sure you're picking out the best of the best props, because you got every single team to choose from.
Yeah, this is still the first month of the season, and it's only Tuesday of the week. Yep. So there's plenty of time left. So
don't chase going into that night slate. That's the main thing.
Yeah, especially that. Just take your loss at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Franco, did you have any plays you wanted to give out?
I would just look towards that Florida puck line. I just think San Jose is just bad. I don't know how else to say it. So I don't mind it where it is minus 120, but I don't see it with this Sharks team. I think they're set up almost more better than Chicago is for the tank. They're going to be battling it out till the end of the season, I think, at this point. So I don't mind taking that. If you're looking for something earlier in the day, that I don't mind that.
Yeah, another look I had to was Winnipeg in regulation tomorrow as well. I'll detail that one more, but that's another kind of play that I'm thinking of adding to the card. So that's all I had. But before we end this, do you guys want to shout out your socials one last time?
Yeah, Franco the Banker on Twitter.
Gretzky Betzky's on Twitter and part of the Parlay Science Discord, and Diamondbacks officially have won.
There it is. We had the Game 7. Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Game 7 tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, just to make
tomorrow one more
even.
thing to watch.
I'll be really focused on the hockey games.
Yeah, exactly. All right. As always, you can find the podcast on Twitter at ExpectedBets4. We got plenty of new stuff coming out shortly, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening to this, and good luck tomorrow. It's a long slate. As we said, be sure to bankroll or manage your bankroll properly. But yeah, have fun.